Expedia and Visit Scotland invite you to come experience the beauty that awaits in Scotland. The sweep of wild coastlines, quiet lochs, and untamed landscapes. Fresh cuisine that feels rooted in the land. Come experience the kind of stillness that stays with you long after you leave. Plan your Scottish escape today at expedia.com/Visit Scotland.
If you've ever blasted synth beats from your boombox or burned CDs for your besties, this one's for you. As people get older, much like their music tastes, their health needs change. AG1 is the simple daily health drink designed to deliver over 75 essential daily nutrients and pre- and probiotics to support energy, digestion, and mood, so you can make the most out of every decade and dance break. Learn more at drinkag1.com.
The new LinkedIn Hiring Pro can't clone you, but it can streamline your hiring workflow. From posting jobs to shortlisting candidates to interviewing, LinkedIn Hiring Pro is the hiring partner you need, so you can focus on connecting with the right talent. In fact, small businesses report saving over 6 hours per week. So hire right the first time with LinkedIn Hiring Pro. Post a free job today at linkedin.com/quality.
Welcome to the JJ Virgin Lifestyle Show with celebrity nutrition expert, fitness Hall of Famer, and 4-time New York Times bestselling author, JJ Virgin. JJ is a warrior mom whose knowledge and expertise have helped change hundreds of thousands of lives with over 3.5 million podcast downloads and appearances on Dr. Phil, Dr. Oz, The Today Show, Rachel Ray, Larry King Live.
Whoa. This show is about you, not about me. I want to help you find practical, real-world ways to dial in your health and mindset so you can finally lose that weight and feel strong and energized. Stop settling for less than your personal best. It's time to find out how to look and feel better than ever. And I'll be right here with you the whole way. All right, if you want to turn back the clock, I don't know about you, but I'm always looking for how to be 10 years younger or more. I have got an amazing guest for you today. I feel super honored that I met up with Dr. Valter Longo. He is like the world's expert in longevity. And I started talking to him a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, all right, I got to get you on my podcast. Turns out we have the same alma maters. He was at UCLA, and then now he is a professor at USC in biogerontology, and he's also the director of the Longevity Institute in the School of Gerontology at USC. And I actually was studying in this gerontology school. I was studying exercise science there. So many years ago. So his whole focus is on genetics and nutrition. And he has written some of the most widely, not wildly, but maybe wildly too, cited papers in the biomedical longevity field. In fact, Time magazine called him the guru of longevity. And his first book that now is in the US was published in Italy. It sold, I think, 500,000 copies over there. And now he's here in the States, and you'll hear that he is definitely Italian. And he is obsessed with anti-aging, which is exciting because I don't know about you, but I am too. So he is going to give you his top 10 tips for living longer. You're going to want to grab those, and you can grab those at jjvirgin.com/Dr. Longo. And so that is DRLONGO, Dr. Longo, for his top 10 tips for living longer. You're going to want to grab those, and we'll put some more cool resources in, as we always do in those show notes. Alrighty, Dr. Valter Longo, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to talk with you today.
Thanks for having me.
Well, this is a topic everybody wants to know more about, especially my community, is what you can do to live longer, healthier. And I think that's a key takeaway. No one wants to live longer unhealthy, right?
Yes, definitely. And there's been too much focus on just living longer and not enough on living longer, healthier.
Which is key. I mean, to me, it's frightening, the idea of being unhealthy and living a long, unhealthy life, right? I don't want to do that. I want to go out like a light bulb, be super, super healthy, and then, live a long life. And then one day it's over and you went out like a light bulb. So what do you do? Because I know you've really studied this both from a diet perspective, and I know we'll also be talking some about exercise, but let's dive into diet first, because you've created both a diet and then you have your fasting mimicking diet, which we're going to talk about, but you've created a diet where you have like kind of an ideal composition every day to help people live longer, healthier. And how did you get into this and figure this all out?
Yeah, so this is all I've ever done, actually. So since I was an undergraduate in school, I've worked on aging, and diet became clear when I started working at UCLA. That diet was the most powerful way to regulate aging, at least for the time being, and also regulate the healthy longevity. And we first started with genetics, identifying the genes that control aging and staying healthy. After we were able to do that, then we started looking at how do you regulate those genes with the diet. And now the book describes that the components of the diet can regulate the genes, and not just regulate cellular protection, but also regeneration and rejuvenation. How can somebody actually become younger? And although you're not going to go back to 18 years of age, but certainly we're seeing now data that is consistent with making people younger.
I know that you have all of this, and for everybody listening, you're going to want to get the show notes. We're going to get your top 10 tips for living longer, and also a link to be able to grab the Longevity Diet book. But what are a couple key things you can say about diet that can help turn back the clock that people could put into place right now?
The book is divided into one is every day. What do you eat every day? And the second part is about this periodic fasting mimicking diet. Is there something that you can do once to 12 times a year, or maybe twice to 12 times a year, they can have long-term effects, and you can just do that for 5 days each time. And so every day it looks by going around the world and looking at centenarians, by looking at the epidemiological studies, clinical data, looking at the mouse studies. If you put it all together, you get a pescatarian diet as being ideal. So vegan, vegetables plus fish, with fish maybe consumed a couple of times a week. This seems to be over and over, regardless of how you approach this. You're never going to get 100% agreement, but over and over, you get this diet as being the best if you look at all these different pillars. And some of the other tricks that I talk about in the book, for example, is, and I don't know if you agree or not, but certainly not eat 5 times a day. But if you're overweight or obese, yeah. I think it's been a bad idea, and that's really contributed to an epidemic of obesity and people overweight. And I think we should go back to what we see very commonly among centenarians around the world. They eat twice a day plus a snack, or 3 times a day plus a snack if they're underweight or of normal weight.
I couldn't be more thrilled to hear this. I still remember I was at UCLA at the time. I went to UCLA and USC, so I loved hearing your history. But I still remember when we moved into this whole idea of grazing, and I was like, it just never made sense to me for what it would do to blood sugar and insulin. So I love hearing that. So besides the idea that the snacking or grazing isn't so good, what about a couple things, or maybe one of the things that's you really don't want to do that can maybe speed up the aging process?
One for sure is eating lots of hours, meaning eating for 15, 16 hours a day. And I think this is one of the consequences of eating 5 times a day. So people start eating at 7 a.m. and continue eating until midnight. This is very common, and a number of clinical trials that have shown that. That's not a good idea. The other, of course, is based on my research, is proteins, having lots of proteins. And I'm picking these two because they're so common. People do this so often, thinking this is good for you. So people eat lots of proteins, and there is no evidence. Most of the evidence suggests that enough protein is good. So 0.5 35 or so grams per pound of body weight. That's a good level of protein. So if you weigh 100 pounds, it would be 35 grams a day of maybe like a fillet of salmon or something like that. But going above that, there is really very little benefit on muscle, and a lot of evidence supporting the fact that you will activate two of the major pathways of pro-aging, meaning the genes that accelerate aging. And one of them is called IGF-1, and the other one is called TOR. And by doing so, you're gonna age more quickly and also develop diseases earlier.
So let's move into it, because I'm thrilled to hear about not eating for all those hours during the day. That's one of the big things we've been teaching here in the community, is to eat less often. So make sure that you're not having multiple meals. You're having, 3 meals, and you're stopping eating 3 to 4 hours before bed. And then you have breakfast an hour or two after waking up. So you get that nice 12, 14, 16 hour overnight fast. But what about this idea of your fasting mimicking diet? How did this come to be, and what are some key takeaways from being able to do this? Because I love the idea of having a fasting mimicking diet where you get the impact of a fast without the pain of a fast.
Yeah. So first of all, the 12-hour fasting daily is good. When you go over 12 hours, you start seeing problems with gallbladder and gallbladder operations and removal and gallstones, right? So because of gallstones. And also another problem you see with the 16 hours is that a lot of people that do 16 hours may be skipping breakfast. And there are now multiple studies, including our own, which we haven't published yet, suggesting that people who skip breakfast have higher mortality and higher cardiovascular disease, right? So this is some of the warnings for people that go above the 12 hours of fasting.
That is fantastic too. I love the fact, because big breakfast skipping has now been out for a while. And I just know for women, they do worse if I just watch. I'm like, they don't do well if they skip breakfast. So
yes. And multiple studies are now showing that they're going to die earlier because of it, or certainly get diseases. Now, what the reason is not clear. Maybe there are other reasons or other things that are associated with skipping breakfast. But because of that, and because of the gallstones, probably not a good idea to go much over 12 hours. Maybe 13 hours of fasting per day is a very good number.
Yeah, we tend to work 12 to 14 hours. I've seen studies for 14. I know that there's all that, the big diets that came out of the UK with what was it called? It was like the 8-hour diet, where they were all focusing on eating within only an 8-hour time frame. And this is going to just kill you, Valter, it was eat whatever you want. And I'm like, come on.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, in those, you can show all kinds of effects short term with all kinds of bad diets, right? And the problem is that all these diets don't focus on getting people to healthy to 100 years of age, and that's really what you want. Rather than say, well, in 3 months it caused me to lose weight, or some other short-term effects, right? So that's not really the point should not be really the major point of a diet. Of course, you want that too. You want to lose weight if that's what you're trying to do. But that you want more than that, and that's I think what I've been focusing on.
Mm-hmm. So, talk about the fasting mimicking diet and what it is and how it works.
Fasting mimicking diet came from addressing the success and failure of chronic calorie restriction. And so, calorie restriction in the aging field is just a reduction of calories to a very low level. Let's say about 30% of normal, not out of excess, but 30% of normal. 30% less than normal, and this has shown incredible effects on say diabetes and weight loss and cancer and cardiovascular disease. But this also causes people to be close to anorexic, and so together with the success, there were problems. And the fasting mimicking diet is to address these problems and basically by doing a diet that mimics fasting, meaning the body understands that you are fasting completely and doesn't really detect the food as food in some ways. And so a lot of the changes that normally occur during water-only fasting, if you completely starve, occur during the fasting mimicking diet. But of course, you get to eat. And this, the major one we tested clinically thus far lasts 5 days. So it's 5 days of between 800 and 1100 calories per day. And then you return to the normal diet. And so this seems to have long-term effects, and meaning that after you finish these 5 days of this fasting mimicking diet, the beneficial effects, whether they are on cholesterol, blood pressure, triglyceride, fasting glucose, inflammation, etc., they remain. And particularly after you do 3 cycles of the fasting mimicking diet, 3 monthly cycles. So the idea is, of course, to remove the burden of having somebody always on a diet and allowing to eat, as well as possible, but allowing to decide what that eating well is, and then say, if you're obese and you have high cholesterol, high blood pressure, you might have to do this fasting mimicking diet once a month. If you're an athlete, you're 35 years old and you're in perfect shape and you eat very well, you have a pescatarian diet, you might only need to do this FMD twice a year for 5 days.
I like the concept too. It's something that I've been working on, is this idea, because I think, everyone talks about the diets don't work, but the reality is they're not thinking about it correctly, where you have your everyday diet, where you put in the basic principles that are going to be important for longevity and health. And then you have, it's kind of a booster that you do throughout the year as needed to get the health changes that you need. And I think that's just really a smart, cool concept that needs to be out there, that we shouldn't be living our life on a diet per se, that these are used therapeutically.
Yes, and both of them are really, for both of them, we went back and looked at, population like centenarians, and made sure that these were not sort of crazy diet that we came up with, whether it was every day or even the periodic fasting. I mean, people had never done a fasting mimicking diet per se, but it was very, very common and almost unavoidable for humans to undergo periods of fasting throughout history, and not just humans. Every organism had to undergo long periods of fasting. And for the first time in history, probably in the last 100 years, we started eliminating this very common condition. And so I think this is not a diet at all, in the sense that it's really about picking the things that, of course, if you look at the past, there's a lot of things that we did that are not necessarily going to help you live longer. So it's about going to the past and matching the past with the science and taking the common denominator. What's common between what we're finding in the lab and in clinical trials and what centenarians and people hundreds of years ago used to do? And I think if you put them together, you get a pretty good bet that you will have something that can help people live longer, healthier.
So what you don't know about me is that I was at USC as a doctoral student in the exercise science department because I wanted to study gerontology. And I know, and I was obsessed with the fact that we had 80 and 90-year-old master athletes who were incredible, and that they were actually showing people getting fitter, stronger in their 70s and 80s. And so I know that you also talk about exercise with this. So I'd love to also hear what you think of as the ultimate exercise regimen for someone, who wants to be healthier longer.
The exercise that I include a chapter in the book about exercise, and what comes out of a number of studies is 150 minutes a week seems to be ideal. If you go twice as much, 300 minutes, you do get an additional benefit, but not a big benefit. So then I say about 40 minutes every other day or so seems to be a very good level of exercise. And also in the book, I talk about trying to stay active and in the rest of the time, try to use your body as much as possible. So avoid the escalators, the elevators, and try to walk to places as much as possible. And so I think the combination of the two, and also for the 150 minutes, maybe you have 20 of these 150 minutes per week that are more strenuous. So where you push yourself, if not to the limit, close to the limit, that seems to be important as well as doing the whole 150 minutes.
Perfect. That's what we teach over here too, is to make sure you're doing some high intensity interval training for the growth hormone response and for what it does for your sympathetic nervous system. So I'm thrilled to hear everything we've been doing. Sounds like it's in line with what you've got in your book here.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I remember looking at these people and going, all right, these people who are in their 70s and 80s are, doing intense exercise and they look great and they're strong and they're healthy and they look 20 years younger. So.
Yes. And of course, you can also, in the book, I talk about overdoing it. And, from talking to scientists that I follow, people that are professional athletes, a lot of them were a little worried about the professional athletes. And so I think there is also, if you do it too much, like if you drive a car too much, you're probably going to have problems. So not a bad idea to not go much over the 300 minutes a week.
Yeah, what we like to think of here is, you should do activities of daily living, move more, walk the dog, etc. But we really focus on exercise as more of those intense workouts, and they aren't long. You don't do them for long periods of time. So it sounds like I'm absolutely against all of that long endurance training because it does age you. Creates more oxidative stress, doesn't make sense, breaks down muscle. So, and most people, they don't exercise because they don't have time. So they're absolutely thrilled to hear this, right?
So this is why I pointed out the 150 minutes, because people always think, oh, I must be more than that. The optimizes health, and it turns out that it's not.
I think that whole thing came up when I was in some of the first running gyms way back when, and we had people doing hour workouts, and so you wanted to get them to do as many as possible because you had more clients. So I think that's where that all came from, because you got to look back and go, why would we tell people to do that? Go work out 5 days a week for an hour? And I'm thinking, because that's what the exercise classes were.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
you couldn't really charge them for a 20-minute workout. So
you had to keep them longer.
Yeah. So you had to keep them longer when really, it's better for you to spend the 20 minutes and then you can go spend more time making good, healthy dinners and have it that way.
And you could argue also the 5 meals a day could have some similar ideas behind it, right? More food sold to people.
Right. Well, I remember when that all happened because I was actually working at the Pritikin Center at the time. And it was when everything started to go super, super low fat. And then all the snack food came out, all these little snack wells, fat-free processed things. And we were supposed to snack all throughout the day, and that you were supposed to graze and eat as we were supposed to eat 10 grams of fat a day. It was like, it was ridiculous.
Yeah, I remember that. The demonization of fat, followed by the demonization of sugar, of carbohydrate now, right? Not sugar. Sugar is probably a good demonization, but carbohydrate now is the new devil. And we keep making the same mistakes over and over.
I know it's not that you can't eat sugar. You got to know where it's coming from. It's like, don't make your wild rice a bad food. It's very different than a Snickers bar. It's like people try to look at one food group and say, don't eat that. And I'm like, no. There's good and bad in every single thing. There's a big difference between, again, like wild rice and potato chips. Or even potatoes. I just did a segment on Dr. Oz showing the difference between having a potato and having potato chips or French fries. One's produce, one's a product. The produce. So sounds like we're on the same page. And I'm just really a big fan of this work. I'm very excited about this book being out in America now. This is definitely one because, you make an important point. I think a lot of people look short term of how can I lose weight, but really, what you're really trying to do is, to me, being overweight is just a symptom of other things not working well. This is really fine-tuning your body so you burn off body fat, so you reduce inflammation, so you've, hormones in balance, and you live a long, healthy life. And that's what your diet is set up to do.
Yeah, and I think, for the weight loss, also the big difference between the periodic fasting mimicking diet and almost everything else out there is that it burns specifically where the most of the fat is. So the visceral fat, for example, the abdominal, the belly fat. And then when you refeed, the muscle returns, the muscle mass, as we shown in the clinical trial, returns to normal, but the fat does not, right? So it's really one of the very few ways that you can specifically go after the belly fat and maintain your muscle mass.
And that is huge because most people, when they go on a diet, they lose muscle and then they go back off the diet and they gain more fat and they shift their body composition and they slow down their metabolism and they get worse over time. And it's a devastating thing to do to your body. So being able to burn off that body fat, that visceral body fat, is huge. And while holding on to and sparing losing muscle. So very big. Thank you so much for doing that. And thank you so much for being with me today. I super appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Now, after the break, I'm going to be answering a listener's questions. So stay with me.
If you're over 35 or under stress, you might not be digesting protein well, and you may decide to take an enzyme product. But if you think all enzyme products are basically the same, here's the truth. Most digestive enzymes help your body digest everything better. Sounds great, except for one thing. When you speed up carbohydrate digestion, you're actually raising your blood sugar, which is not good. JJ has included a special ingredient in her digestive enzyme that slows and even blocks some carbohydrate digestion while supporting protein digestion. Visit jjvirgin.com/products and give JJ's digestive enzymes a try today.
Welcome back. This is the time where I answer a listener's question. And now you know that I try to pull ones that fit in with the topic at hand. So I've got a great one for today from Carl in Birmingham. And we pull these off, by the way, from my social media sites. So either JJ Virgin Official at Facebook or jj.virgin at Instagram. That's where we do a lot of scouring for comments and questions. So I got this one from Carl in Birmingham. Says, all right, so you're anti-snacking, but what do you do if you're hungry all day long? Okay, so this is why it's super critical to keep a food journal, because you should not be hungry all day long. If you're hungry all day long, there's something wrong, and we got to figure out what the heck it is. First of all, have you trained yourself to be hungry all day long? Because quite often I find that, we were taught to graze and all of a sudden it's like Pavlov's dog. Oh, it's breakfast. And then, it's mid-morning. I should have a snack. Then it's lunch. Then it's mid-afternoon. I should have a snack. Then it's dinner. Then it's after dinner. I should have a snack. So first thing I want to know is, did you just train yourself to think that you need to eat all day long? Because guess what? As you heard from Dr. Longo, you don't. You should not be eating all day long. So that's the first one, is maybe you trained yourself. Exposure equals preference. Second of all, you might be thirsty. Quite often I find people are not hungry. They just need to drink. And when you drink water all throughout the day, you actually boost your metabolism as much as 30%. You can burn 300 more calories throughout the day by just drinking water or ice green tea. So I want you to be drinking more. And then look at the food that you ate, and did you eat the right composition? So you want to make sure that you always have some clean protein. That would be things like wild fish, grass-fed beef, pastured chicken, lots of low carb. So loads of non-starchy vegetables, little bit of low carb, maybe something like some wild rice or squash, and then some healthy fats, because that is that fat, fiber, protein trifecta is just beautiful for keeping your blood sugar balanced, and your insulin will come up when you eat, which is important, triggers satiety, and then comes back down so that you're able to burn off stored fat for fuel, right? And feel good. So you want to look back, and this is why I have people do a food journal, because if you're hungry a couple hours after a meal, I want to know what is going on that's making you hungry. Maybe you had a big workout. That can make you hungry. Maybe you didn't eat the right composition at your last meal. Maybe you're not drinking enough water, right? What is going on? One other thing that can make you hungry is having alcohol. If you have alcohol, a day later, you end up a little bit insulin resistant. You're actually going to be more hungry. So that can be a little rebound effect from drinking. If you are going to drink, shout out to my buddies at Dry Farm for the lower sugar wine. So if you are going to drink responsibly and stick with something that's not with added sugar in it. So either Dry Farm wines or tequila or vodka without a sugary mixer. But you're not doing that every day, because wine and weight loss do not go hand in hand. So sorry to break the news to you on that, but you already knew it, right? You did. All right. Now, I want to do a shout out to Boy11 from Canada, who says, amazing, 5 stars. JJ's information will be life-changing for you. And just want to Appreciate you. Love you up for the review. Those reviews help a ton. I know people go out and go, what podcast should I listen to? And if you see a bunch of reviews, you're more likely to dive in. So when you do that, when you jump on there and leave a review, yes, this is a shameless big ask for you to do that over on iTunes, JJ Virgin Lifestyle Show. But when you do that, you're not only helping me, you're actually helping a bunch of people, because then you've got people listening to the show. And as you can see, I always try to give super actionable information that you can jump in and use that will change your life. Alrighty. Thanks again. See you next week.
That's all for this episode of the JJ Virgin Lifestyle Show, which marks another step towards a healthier body and mind. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the show, and we'll talk to you next week.